booties for Black girl nerds.
Oh, there we go. I was muted. Welcome to Black Girl Friends, the Swarm recap show. So for those of you that have watched Swarm, which I hope you have, because this will be a spoilerific recap, because obviously it's a recap. That's what you do. You talk about the details of a show on a recap. But for those of you that have watched Swarm, I'm sure you are ready to unpack. I'm sure you are ready to go into some details. You've got questions. You have thoughts that you need to have processed about what is happening on this Prime Video series that launched over the past weekend. We're really excited to bring this recap show to all of you guys to discuss. And I'm here with some amazing guests. Of course, the crew is back with us, but we do have a special guest that's joined us that's going to be joining us on future recaps. So some of you guys are new, I'm assuming, that's probably on this recap show, because Last of Us and the Swarm audience may not be the same audience. I don't know. But we will introduce ourselves and then we'll get right into the recap. But before we do the introductions, do all of the things, you guys. You gotta subscribe. So hit the notification bell and be sure to subscribe. I forgot to add our graphics. There's our cool little Swarm graphics there. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell. All of the information is down below there where you can follow us. blackgirlnerds.com is the website. There's a recap of Swarm on there. There's interviews from the cast on there. Also, follow us on Twitch. We are on there. We're streaming on Twitch right now. And hopefully in the future, you'll see some gaming content. But for now, follow us on Twitch. And of course, we are also streaming on Facebook. One last thing, too, as far as this goes, this is an engagement conversation. We welcome a spirited discussion. Please be positive. No negative trolling comments are allowed. So we won't engage with you if you go down that path. But if you do want to talk with us, please do. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So we welcome your comments and thank you for joining us. So before we get started in the recap, let's do introductions. I'll start. My name is Jamie Broadnax. I'm the founder and CEO of Black Girl Nerds, and I help run these recaps that we do every now and then, and really happy to be a part of this. I won't be leading this particular recap show, but kind of sort of will be in the background handling all of the production part of this. We'll go to Ryan, and then Angelica, and then Samuel.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Ryan Bennett. You usually find me contributing to Black Girl Nerds in these recaps. I'm so excited to be back. Also, I do a lot of hosting for the BGN podcast. So, take a listen, check it out. And yeah, I'm excited to be here with these lovely people to talk about Swarm.
Hi, guys. I'm Angelica. I'm also a contributor to BGN. I also help with the Twitter. So all the crazy memes and funny stuff, that's usually me. Also been a big part of the BGN podcast. I had to sit out for The Last of Us, but I'm back for Swarm.
Hey, you guys. My name is Samuel Leggett. I am an editor in chief to JVS Media Productions. I am a movie critic. I'm a lover of film and all things media, but we've got a little YouTube channel. It's called Team JVS. We do interviews, we do reviews, we do discussions, and like we talked about before, The Last of Us, that was one of the things I was so happy to have Jamie on. So I'm happy to contribute back and pay it forward. So I'm excited to talk about Swarm.
Ooh. All right. Well, I will be leading the discussions this time around. You might remember me from Game of Thrones, and we did Handmaid's Tale. And what else did we do, Ryan? We did so many recaps.
Country, everything.
Lovecraft
All
Country. Yeah. I don't even remember how many we've done, but I am back for Swarm. So Swarm is a series created by Donald Glover. You may know him as Childish Gambino. outside of his artistry, he's most well known as the creator of Atlanta. So you already know the vibe this show has if you're a fan of Atlanta. Also co-created and written by Janine Nabers. You may know her from Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. And she actually wrote and executive produced, I think, 2 episodes of Watchmen. So a great team. Yeah. So Swarm essentially follows Dominique Fishback's character, Andrea Dre Green. She's a young woman who is obsessed with this Beyonce-esque artist named Nija, who's played by Noreen S. Brown. Her obsession takes a turn for the worst as we watch the series progress. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, the Swarm is modeled after Beyonce's Beehive, but it also has traits from other fan bases like the Barbs and the Navy, and not saying that fandom is necessarily bad, but it can definitely get toxic. And when this show opens, it really makes it doesn't hide the fact that this is about Beyonce. It says this is a work of fiction. Any similarity to actual persons living or dead or actual events is intentional. So they want you to know this is about the Beehive. So I'll turn it over to you guys for your thoughts on, the show in general, just the first episode, just your first thoughts off the top of your heads. And anyone that wants to jump in.
Yeah, I just want to correct you. It's Janine Nabers. I just want to put some respect on her name.
Oh, what did I say? Favors? Sorry, Janine.
You said Favors. That's okay. That's all right. And she's killing it right now between her and Donald. And also, oh gosh, and I'm probably going to screw up her name by saying this. Ademi Ebo, who directed Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. She directed episodes of this. So want to give some love to her, who's also behind Swarm. So a lot of women behind the scenes of this show, which I love. This show is just wild. I absolutely loved it straight out of the gate. Such an easy, quick binge, too. I was able to binge all of the episodes in one sitting. I don't know if you guys did that, but it was just a nice, quick, easy binge for me personally. And I found myself Googling as soon as I saw like the little disclaimer up there. I was like, is this a work of fiction? Is this based on some real life events? Did this happen? So I kind of like the satiricalness. I don't even know if that's a word, but how they satirize that in the show, and Donald and his team and Janine and them, they've done an incredible job with just setting up the premise of this very first episode. So I'm right out the gate, it definitely hooked me up, got me really hooked.
Yep. Ryan?
Yeah, it was pure shock for me. I was just like, I didn't know. I wanted to go in fresh. I didn't do the typical like content creator thing we do, go for the deep dive and look, because I didn't have to do the outline like Angelica. So I just kind of went in fresh, and I was like, let me just see what happens and what pops out. Also, well played to the publicist, the way they promoted this show. You knew you had to stay away from Twitter and Instagram. And I caught myself watching just for like the mains, the celebrity power you're going to have in the show. You just wanted to tune in, but you didn't know what was going to happen. If you stayed away, if you didn't dig too deep, you didn't know what was going to happen, but you knew you had star power. So just shout out to their team of like how they had, this show was very clickable. You wanted to know what was going on because everybody on social media was talking about it. They were talking about the different scenes. So I just shout out to how they promoted this, because usually that doesn't happen a lot of times with Black people in front of the camera, behind the camera, as far as getting the promotion out for their shows. So I thought it was well done by the team.
Agreed. Sam?
Yeah, for me, it's interesting because I didn't know what this was going to be. I didn't see a trailer. I just knew Donna Glover. I knew Dominique Fishback, and I was like, I'm there, period. And, watching the first episode, I was kind of like, okay, some sisters. She seems a little obsessed with this person. This kind of reminds me of a Beyonce situation, but I was kind of like, I don't know where this is going. And so for me, it was like a fish out of water. I didn't know where it was going to turn. I did know that, Donald Glover has a certain style of how he does stuff, even the way he films, and you can see it, you can tell it within, all the characters that are in this one, but then also stylistically with certain shots. And I just appreciated how raw it was, because I was like, they could hold back here, but instead they're like, no, we're gonna give you everything. And the other thing about it is that every single character, I felt like there was a history there. Specifically with Marissa and Dre, I was kind of like, are they really biological sisters? Like what is it about them? And even like having like Dre like, kiss Marissa's like scar, I was kind of like, okay, I see that there's history there, but what does that mean? And also, if they're not sisters, what is this actually happening? And so the other part of this for me is, outside of Destiny's Child, I haven't really tracked Beyonce like that. I've kind of steered clear. So I didn't know any of this was based on true events. I kind of looked at it as a disclaimer. I was like, maybe Donald Glover's trying to be funny, but I was like, I was like, oh, okay. So this whole entire rest of me watching this show is going to be brand new for me. So it's going to be interesting to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, agreed. And we will also break down some of the real life events that inspired some of the show's craziest moments. So we'll definitely get into, is this fiction or is this reality? So let's get started. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
real quick, just want to go to the comments. Sarita Lutz says, I have to check it out. I love Donald Glover. Sarita, if you have not seen episode 1, we are spoiling this. So I just wanted to let you know.
Log off.
Come back later.
Feel free to come back and watch it.
Sorry.
Our recap. Okay. And yeah. We're all about to get stung here. All right, go ahead.
I see what you did there. I see what you did.
Good job, Nova. So yeah, this episode is entitled Stung. Obviously the swarm or bees, they sting. So yeah, we open with Dre, who, as I mentioned, is played by Dominique Fishback. She awakens from her sleep. There's a poster of Nyjah hanging above her bed, and a disembodied voice says, "Who's your favorite artist?" Now, as you watch this show, you'll realize why those words are so scary, but that's all we get right from the beginning. So let me just set up the setting for you guys. The year is 2016. Dre lives in Beyonce's hometown of Houston. She lives with her best friend and sister, Marissa Jackson, who's played by Chloe Bailey, who happens to be Beyonce's protege. So I love that tie-in. Marissa loves Nyjah, but she's kind of grown out of it. She's not a super fan, certified stan like Dre still is. And even in her room, there's like all this paraphernalia, posters, all types of Nyjah stuff all over her room. You could tell she's a stan to the core. So she orders very expensive tickets to Nyjah's Evolution tour using her new Discover card. So she took out a card to buy these tickets by any means necessary. Note that these tickets are $1,800 a pop. Okay, for the ones. So I won't even spend that money. I know I make good money. So anyways, it kind of echoes the cost of Beyonce's Renaissance tour. It's at the point where people are buying tickets overseas because it'll be cheaper to fly overseas and stay and pay for your trip than to get tickets here in the US. And so she gets her tickets. She's so excited. She shares on her Swarm Twitter that she just scored these really amazing tickets. Other Swarm members, followers reply back in earnest. They saying, yeah, I chose, Nyjah over paying rent. I would give up my firstborn for tickets to Nyjah. And Dre just kind of basking in all this love from her fellow Swarm members. And then we hear the sound of bees buzzing. So I'll stop there for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the fact that Chloe Bailey is in this show just tells me that the Beyonce stamp of approval is on this. Something tells me that maybe there was conversations made between perhaps even Donald Glover and Chloe and Beyonce. Okay, we're going to be doing a show that's sort of like quasi-semi about your life and about the fandom that supports your career. And it's going to be a little crazy, but we got Chloe here. So she's going to be so I feel like maybe Beyonce's cool with this. So hopefully the Beehive isn't too upset about this show. I haven't seen any backlash on social media. Feel free, guys, in the comments if you have seen any. But yeah, it's funny. I did a TikTok about this and the fact that Dre took out a Discover card to pay for an $1,800 ticket, and it just goes to like
two, Jamie, 2 tickets.
2 tickets,
2
right? It just,
yeah,
and it just goes to show the state of our economy, where even though you don't have the income to afford $1,800 tickets, you can get a credit card and be approved for a line of credit to fund that. So I just thought that was ironic, and it's a real thing. One of our commenters said, Nanto, the Enigma, friend of the show, sounds like reality to me. That is a real thing. People have done that. I mean, I've been guilty of, using a credit card for things I can't afford. So I just thought that was a real moment. That was funny, and that just kind of stuck out to me. So I'll stop there.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the opening of this. I thought I've been to Beyonce concert before. Now I paid my rent. First. I didn't open a Discover card to go, but you gotta be careful of the credit, because you got to pay it back eventually. But I get it. She wants to go to see Naja. It means something to her. She got the poster on the wall and everything like that. But it's insane when you hear these stories of, like, I saw somebody trying to go to a Mariah Carey concert. They didn't, like, they missed their last rent check. They were like, I'm about to get these tickets no matter what. So it's just insane, like, how you wake up at a certain time of day and just sit there. You're on Ticketmaster, whatever, like, just waiting because you're in line. You're on the wait list to click it. And somebody might come before you and click on it. You don't know if you got it or not. I was screaming at the TV, like, did she get them? Did she get the tickets? So it was, just the shock of, like, being that fan, just wanting to go somewhere and wanting to get that seat. And you just forget about the fact that you just spent like $1,800 with, like, each a ticket or whatever, how much ever she had to pay to get into this. So yeah, like I said, this show, like, the way they play between, like Angelica said, reality fiction, is it true, is it not? And where they have you, it's so like you're on Twitter and Instagram right along with the show. Like, you're feeling everything right along with what they're doing and relating to it. So I thought it was a great opening.
Great.
Yeah.
Samuel?
Yeah, for me, it was like a 2-hand fold. I was thinking about the social media side. Like, you have like certain fan pages and certain social media pages that, like, are at these events and at these exclusive things. And you never know, like, was this something that their press, they got exclusively, or they had to sacrifice to get them? And you just never know kind of what somebody's dedication and obsession is to get them, like, all right, here's this one click, but you never know what they had to do to get there. And the fact that she was doing that, the other side of that I thought was fascinating is that, before I even, walked into this press media outlets kind of stuff, I loved the idea of going to, like, something like San Diego, like for Comic-Con, right? And so you try to go and you click in, you're waiting, you don't know if you're even going to get it. And that anxiety of getting it, it's kind of like Donna Glover was perfect with that, because she was kind of like, should I click it? I gotta wait. And she clicked it. She's like, I did it, and like that's that feeling that you feel when you're getting something that you want, regardless if it's to see, like, an artist, or regardless if it's to go to an event. That obsession is like, there's a compromise there. Like, you're trying to compromise to get to something that you need, not necessarily that you feel like, oh, everybody's perception is this is what I want, but for her, this is something I need to do. And it's crazy that off great you get an understanding of where her head is wired. And I guess it leads into the next scene, which is her going to the convenience store, and she barely didn't have any money to pay for that. And she just, sacrificed so much. So it shows a very fascinating mindset. She's got 2-track mind going on. And then she's also living in reality. It's so weird. But realistic too.
Yeah, agreed. And little side note, I am not too crazy about Beyonce. I like her music. I think she's cool, but I'm not crazy about her. But I am crazy about Chloe and Halle. And I am crazy about Chloe's solo career. And I actually just got tickets to her In Pieces tour. So I'll be, I was waiting in a little queue during the pre-sale, like, oh, let me get these tickets. And I was texting my friend, like, do you want to pay for these, balcony tickets, or you want to be in, standing room only, how much you want to pay? So I'm gonna be in there getting my Dre on. Well, not like that, but getting my Dre on at her concert.
Which version? The beginning Dre or the one at the end?
The beginning, before.
Okay.
Crazy.
We go.
Where she's just
cool.
a fan, and I'm not, like, I'm on Chloe's Discord. I love her and her sister so much, but I'm not to that level. I'm more like a
Yeah.
Marissa. I'm at a Marissa level. So speaking of, Dre goes to tell Melissa the good news because she got these tickets for Marissa's birthday that's coming up. So she's, she's walking out of her room to go tell Marissa, and the doors open in Marissa's room and we hear some noises. And as someone had just commented, we weren't ready for this. But we see Chloe getting her cheeks, Marissa getting her cheeks clapped by her boyfriend Khalid, who's played by Damson Idris. And I was like, I did not expect to see Chloe's cheeks, face down, ass up. I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Just didn't even prepare us. So Marissa, because she's face down, she can't see Dre at the door, but Khalid sure can. And it's almost like he's like, oh, you see me? Okay. Yeah. All right. And he gets even more into it. And they just have like this weird stare off. And you can tell that Dre's either kind of disgusted or curious, and it was just a lot going on. I have some more comments about Chloe's performance, but I'm gonna turn it over to you guys and I'll wrap up with that. No pun intended.
By the way, I forgot to mention at the top of the show that today is Dominique Fishback's birthday. So happy birthday to Dominique.
Happy birthday, queen.
Yay. Birthday queen. So yeah, it's weird. I don't know if you guys notice this on social media. I mean, social media can be trash sometimes. Actually, probably more times than not. Chloe was getting backlash for this scene, and I was just like, it's acting, guys. Why are we conflating Chloe as a person with this character Marissa? So people were just mad that she's in this sex scene with Damson Idris, and I just thought that was unnecessary backlash. But I was looking at Damson a little different. I was like, okay, all right, I see you. Okay. And now there's been like this discussion and conversation online, and I put up a little YouTube short to kind of throw it out there. And I would love y'all's opinions about this. What do y'all think about him being maybe T'Challa in the next Black Panther movie? Because I think he might be a good candidate for T'Challa.
T'Challa Jr.
Like, yeah, the heir apparent. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it.
So anyway, I'm just loving the trajectory in his career between Snowfall and this, and we'll talk more about his character because things change a little bit. But this was a different role for Chloe, and I'm here for it. I'm here seeing her in different types of roles because she's even got this movie coming out called Praise This, where she's
I'm sorry.
I know.
Opposite of what?
Yeah, she's like in a gospel choir. So let her do her thing. Like, let her live is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, social media.
All right. Brian, your thoughts.
Lord, Damson Idris, I don't know about him with Black Panther. I'm still in the fact that he was making me so mad in the show. But I was like, I guess it's what we got to live with, because they played to the fan service hard in this show, because you open up with him and you guaranteed everybody about to finish this episode the way they opened up. All the women especially watching this episode to the end, like the way they open with this, and then they have Chloe in there. And actually, people giving her backlash. I know she has certain features that, if you're a fan, everybody recognizes it was Chloe. That's, when you're on the interwebs, that's what everybody's saying. But I think the way they did the scene, you have to zoom and enhance to see every little thing that you want to see. So the way she did the scene, it wasn't like she was like, I'm talking about for Chloe, not Damson. Damson's had it all out. But, I'm just saying, I don't think the way they captured the scene wasn't like she was trying to go out for like, this is my new whole slate of films about to shoot. So I think people did a little much on social media. In that sense, I think she, like Jamie said, she can act and move around and do different stuff. They don't have to put her on one category. But yeah, I mean, this whole opening was just, they knew who to call. They knew what celebrities to get in here. Where they were going to try to make a point about, I guess, just the start of the dynamic between Dre and Marissa, and it got super, like, people putting in the comments right now, it was super awkward. Her sitting there and watching, like, if we was cringing a little bit, she was sitting there looking. It was like it was a lot in that scene to take in. But yeah, I mean, this was the scene to keep you to watch to the end. So they did what they had to do.
Samuel, your
You weren't
thoughts?
turning away after this scene.
Your thoughts on the cakeage?
What's the guy's perspective on this?
So for me, it was uncomfortable, but not for the reason that I thought.
Okay.
It was more so the uncomfortability of Dre looking at him, because her eyes were looking at both of them, but it was almost like anger mixed with like, I don't know. It wasn't like she was looking at him like of admiration. Like he was getting off on it. Like he was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you paying attention to me. Cool. All right. You know, I got something there. But she's looking as though there's ulterior things going on in her mind about him and her. And I was kind of like, is she jealous of this happening? Is it that, you know, mentally, like she's trying to understand what's happening right there? I think that's why I said Dominique's performance was so uncomfortable to me. It was more uncomfortable than the actual sex scene. As far as the sex scene is concerned, I did later on kind of look, and Chloe did like an interview. She was like, they had like a ball in between both of them, and she kind of felt really scared about it because she hadn't done any scenes like that. And they said that they did it very professionally and it was fine. And they were kind of laughing on set as far as the actual scene. The weird thing about Damson is that I've never seen Snowfall. So I've seen scenes of Snowfall, but I've never seen it. So this is my first time being introduced to him. It was a weird introduction. But it set a very interesting perspective on what kind of a man he is. Because the fact that like he didn't say, hey, close that door, or he didn't say, hey, yo, your girl's kind of looking at us, like he got off on that. And so immediately I was like, okay, I know where this is gonna go. But it was fascinating that immediately it put like, you know, I don't know how to put it. Like all of them were gonna be going down a road that was not gonna, they weren't gonna be able to come back from. Just off of that one stare, because I was like, yeah, she's not gonna let this continue one way or another. So I think that was the thing that was the most uncomfortable for me in that scene.
Yeah, something wasn't right in the water. And yeah, I watched a lot of Twitter. Yeah, Twitter was up in an uproar. Like you said, they were criticizing Chloe for choosing this, especially saying the fact that she's Beyonce's protege. She should really watch her image. And I'm like, leave that girl alone, let her live. What I thought was interesting that she kind of approached the sound she made as if she was making music. So she said she kind of got in the zone the way with her moans, but I knew she wasn't paying attention to what she was doing. I think she was so like invested in the sound she was making, because there's a part where Khalid says, oh, you feel that? And she's like, yeah, I feel it a little bit. And I'm like, what guy wants to hear that? And the fact that they left that in there just kind of makes me crack up a little bit.
Donald Glover for you.
Yeah, there you go. So Dre, after that weird encounter, she heads to the local corner store. She got some essentials. She's told by the clerk / owner that Dre's friend owes her money for banana flavored condoms, which I thought was very specific. And she said, you know, you got to pay or I'm going to call the cops. And Dre's like, I don't have $5 to spare. And she's like, you need to pay. So she pays for the food and whatever else Marissa owed. And then she gets a text from Marissa asking her to pick up some food from Frenchie's. And we will have a call back to Frenchie's later in this episode, but it's like a Creole spot in Houston that's really popular, chicken place. So she gets the text from Marissa to pick up Frenchie's, and it's like her text tone. You'll hear it a lot as the series progresses. I think it's a snippet of one of Nija's song, and it's like, I live for that, which I don't know what that will mean, but I just picked up on that small detail. Dre returns with the food, which Khalid helps himself to, doesn't even ask, is this for me? He just starts eating. He offers Dre a beer. Dre's like, I don't drink. Marissa, then she got a job for her Houston show. I'm sorry. Was there something?
I think you froze a little bit.
You're okay.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. So Marissa is really excited. She just booked a gig working for Drama Queen doing her makeup for her Houston show. The regular makeup artist broke her wrist, so Marissa could potentially book this gig for the rest of the tour. So she's super excited. And, she gets on the couch and starts eating with Khalid, and they kind of have this weird PDA. And once again, Dre is the third wheel watching this awkward exchange. And then Marissa asks for the rent check, and Dre's like, I don't have any money. And she's like, well, where'd your money go? And she's like, oh, I spent it. And, I paid back the clerk because they said that you owed money. And Marissa was like, I don't owe that lady anything. She needs to get her niggas straight before she gets shot. And then Khalid offers to pay to get the money back for Dre, which she declines. And there's this weird energy with Khalid, the way he's approaching Dre. He teaches her for sucking her thumb. He tells her that he can tell she's a virgin by looking at her. He got homies that can take care of it. She a good girl and they like good girls. And it's just all so very weird. And Marissa even apologizes for his behavior. So I'll pause there for your thoughts on those last two scenes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. A lot to unpack here. I think, first of all, Khalid is trash. Let's just get that out the way. And this was something that I had made an observation about with Marissa, is that Marissa, which we learn later on in the story, but she is a girl that comes from a place of privilege, and she comes from actually a kind of well-to-do family and a well-to-do background. And there's something about these stories, and really just in general, where women tend to attract men that are just really just toxic, even though they're in these environments where they've grown up around two parents that are seemingly healthy environments. They seem to be drawn to like bad boys. So I just found that to be a pretty compelling narrative for Marissa's story arc in relation to Khalid. But yeah, this scene, these scenes were pretty telling of his character and just how he treats her and how he just dismisses her, and some foreshadowing into, how we find out more about, the kind of guy that he is. So.
Yep. Ryan?
Yeah, not a Khalid fan. He, it just kind of like, you thought it was gonna get better at some point, and it was just like, yeah.
Why, Jamie?
I forgot to throw that graphic up when you were talking about earlier.
About it, but
oh my god,
I guess people were a fan of this one, but the Khalid after that they weren't a fan of. There you go. But yeah, I mean, just the I don't know. This scene was another one of those things where it's like I identified with Dre. It's like you're trying to follow the rules, right? You're trying to pay, you're trying to cover up, you think you're doing the right thing, and then you come back and the person that you really have this trust with, this bond with, is like siding with this new man in her life, not really, trying to act like what you're doing is not smart, and like she's kind of the protector, almost looking after Marissa, like she kind of has to, fix everything for her. So it's that scene where, again, you kind of see that slow build about what's the relationship between these two ladies and their different personalities. And also, I would have punched Khalid when he took my fries. I'm telling you, it's something about having your fries, your food, you ready to eat, and he just digging into that bag like that was his. I'm telling you, I would have took him out. That was the other number two thing where I was like, can't stand him. He was already on my list.
Samuel?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it with Khalid is that he's showing what kind of man he is. Like, it's very evident that he's wants to be in control. He wants to be the pseudo, bad boy. When he kind of said like, "Oh, you want me to go and over there and take care of it for you?" Because the thing about it is, when Dre went to the convenience store, the lady kind of threatened her, "I'm gonna call the police on you," and so she got her pocket change out of her sock. And I was like, she shouldn't do that. She's getting taken advantage of. And what he said was correct, but he tried to use it to draw Dre in. That's what he wants. He wants to be able to use, and that's the kind of person that he is. But what was the most thing that I didn't like about is when he kept on referring to her as a virgin, like cherry pie. I was like, Marissa, if this is your sister, that's disrespectful. Like, it's not just a shrug off to say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, no, like, read the room. But it also showed to me that Marissa needs whatever he's giving. Like, it's like he's a controlling individual, so that's what she's kind of needing to hold on to. And it's just fascinating because it shows a lot about what's going on in Marissa's headspace, that she would allow something like that. She's evident that she's gotten past the Naja era. She's trying to be faithful as best she can to her sister, But the fact that she's got this man here and she's trying to pursue a career, it's evident that there's something that she's still holding on to that is kind of messing with her. And I think that was a thing that I would give compliment to Donald Glover with this, because that scene could have been really done really quickly and you just kind of like, threw it to the door. But it's like the fact that Marissa just let it happen, it's like, okay, there's something more going on wrong here than just what Dre's perspective is. So I liked it, but I also, like you said, Khalid is some trash. Like, he needs to get the boot quickly.
Yeah, Khalid is trash. So later, he had please,
Uh-oh.
Jamie, please spare us. So he brought up the fact that Drea still sucks her thumb, which means obviously Marissa's pillow talking with Khalid about Dre. And so Dre's actually in her room sucking her thumb, and Khalid walks in and tells her that he has plans to take Marissa to Atlanta for her birthday with some friends. And he tells her, like, you should roll with us. And Dre's like, we're good. We're going to be busy. And he's like, what are you going to be doing? She's like, yeah, I got Nyjah tickets. And he was like, how did you cop Nyjah tickets when you're broke? Like, the cheap tickets are $300 a pop.
Right.
And she's like, when you love Nyjah, you make sacrifices. And as you had mentioned, Samuel, Khalid says things that are correct, but he goes about it the wrong way. So he basically tells Dre that he feels like she's part of a cult. Nyjah is nobody. She's a regular person like everyone else. She gets, I think he referenced getting smashed by her husband like everybody else. He just kind of demeans Nyjah. And if you know anything about Dre, she does not like when you speak ill of Nyjah. And she's just like, Nyjah is not like that. She's special. She's a goddess. And he's just like, oh, okay. So as he gets up to leave, when Marissa calls for him, Dre begs him not to mention to Marissa about those tickets. So I'll stop there because we kind of shift gears on the next scene. Your thoughts on that small scene there?
Yeah, I mean, don't speak bad about Nyjah to Dre, because it's scary. I mean, it was even not knowing in this very first episode, even not knowing the lengths and the depths that Dre will go for her stand-up towards Nyjah, I was already fearful of what will become of Khalid, because I was just like, I don't think he should be saying that to her. So they did some really great, I don't know, foreshadowing probably. I don't know if I'm using that term properly, but they just did a really great setup in making me as a viewer already feeling some anxiety for these characters, for Khalid, not even knowing that things would get even darker. Because I'm just like, I just feel like this is probably not the conversation he should be having with her. So yeah, I was already sort of dialed in that something's not quite right with Dre, and she's probably likely to go off on the deep end. But
yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, I know we're gonna say this a ton as the season goes. Dominique Fishback played this, like how she subtly creeps these slow emotions in. This was the first time, and it kind of shocked me when she did it. Because you have Khalid, taking his, trying to act like he's giving advice, giving it the wrong way, being just weird, sitting closer on the bed and everything. And she's taking it for the most part. Everything to this scene so far, she's been taking it. She's been real, she's real standoffish, kind of quiet, not really gonna say a lot. As soon as you mention Nyjah, she's like, well, hold up, wait a minute, I got something to say. Don't come at Nyjah like that. Like she's opening up, right? It's that she's pushing back a little bit, and I thought that was interesting to kind of see like the making of where the stand comes from and that fandom, and why, nowadays, celebrities, certain stars mean so much. Like, what do they bring out in your life? What is that you're missing? And I just thought that was interesting how that subtle change in her dialogue, she pushed back a little bit that we didn't see from the beginning. So that was interesting to me.
Agreed. Samuel?
Yeah, it was interesting because the first thing we see is like you said, she had like 3 fingers in her mouth, and she was just vibing out with her headphones to Nyjah. And then he kind of interrupted that already. That kind of set her off. And then, he does all his spiel and stuff. But the moment that he kind of talked about Nyjah, like, it's almost like she became a completely different person. Because this whole entire time, like, not just that her sister is allowing this man to talk at her a certain kind of way, but everybody, like even the clerk, like she let the clerk take advantage of her. But the moment that Naja came in, like she just became something completely different. And so it is definitely foreshadowing to show what she may be capable of, because she's becoming something completely different whenever this element is involved. The weird thing about it though is when Marissa kind of called for him and Dre was like, please don't tell her. And it was almost as though Dre was worried that he was going to ruin that surprise, because for her, that was the build up. That was everything. And it's almost like she would have been willing to do whatever if Khalid had been paying attention to that, just to make sure that surprise wasn't ruined, because she was concerned. She even followed him out just in hope that he would kind of keep it to herself. And I think also that leads into later on a mall scene where she was kind of hoping, that he wouldn't divulge that information because she needed that. It goes back to what she needs. Yeah, it's definitely a concern that I had that, okay, Dre may be legitimately off, and I don't know what she's capable of in a world like this, because Donald Glover, he like either one, he's gonna go one way or it's gonna go another way. And as soon as I realized what type of show this is not just a comedy. Yeah. So it definitely sets up a lot coming off of this.
Yeah, and to your point, Naja does empower Dre, whether it's good or bad. It remains to be seen as of this point. But there's something about Naja that kind of, people's like not Sasha Banks, Sasha Fierce is like Beyonce's alter ego, and motivates her. And women, when they want to empower themselves, I'm gonna be Sasha Fierce. So it feels like Naja kind of gives Dre that power. So that night, Marissa does Dre's makeup. And she says, like, your face is so versatile. You look so great in makeup. And Dre's like, you trying to say I'm ugly? And she's like, no, girl, I'm giving you a compliment. Learn how to take one. You're a snack. And then she kind of sees Dre, like, in her phone. And she was taking pictures of Dre's face because she was going to use it for her portfolio. And she's like, oh, let me find out you're talking to somebody. And she's like, no. And she shows her phone, which is shows that she's on her Swarm account. And Marissa's like, you're still on that old account? And she's like, what? I like it. And Marissa's like, yeah, I liked it too when we were kids, but we're grown now, you need to back off of that. And, Dre's insisting that the people that follow that account are her friends. And she's like, they're not your friends. They are, crazy fans. They don't care about you. Right. It's not real. Like Twitter is not real. So as she's finishing up, you can see her hand kind of like cross over to grab something, and there's a scar on her wrist, a vertical scar. So obviously at some point in time, Marissa tried to kill herself or hurt herself, which to me, that was actually really surprising when I first saw that, because she seems so together. Like she takes such good care of Dre. She seems like the mother type, and the fact that she has a past where she wanted to end her life or potentially seriously hurt herself, that was interesting to me. Like you said, there was like some background that we weren't aware of. When Dre sees the scar, she begins to like kiss it and just like caress it, her way of kind of comforting Marissa, even though Marissa may not need that comfort right now. And she's like, you don't have to do that every time you see it. So I don't know if she's kissing. To me, I took it as comforting her, like, ooh, I got your back. But it could have been like, as a result of me, you did this. So I'm not sure. But, she apologizes for doing it. And Marissa's like, you're weird, but I appreciate your passion. I love your passion. I need some of that. So they get in bed, and Marissa convinces Dre to smoke. Dre's not a fan of smoking. She's not a fan of drinking. She's not a fan of sex. She's very much an introvert. And Marissa's like, no, smoke. It'll help you make friends. So they start smoking. They start discussing Naja. And, Dre's like, what do you think Naja's doing at this very moment? And Marissa's like, I don't know, but we have to meet her one day. Like, what if I become her makeup artist? I'd be too nervous. Like, my hands would shake too much. I wouldn't be able to do her makeup. And then Dre's like, yeah, girl, I wouldn't even breathe in her presence. But then she says something that to me was a little concerning. She says, if we ever do meet Naja, I feel like she's going to lock eyes with us, and she's going to see our connection, and she's going to invite us to her house for dinner. I was like, okay, girl. And so she asked Marissa, like, do you think we'll ever meet Naja? And she's like, if there's anyone crazy enough to meet Naja, it's you. And I'll stop there for your thoughts.
Yeah, going back to Marissa and the scar on her. I mean, obviously, yeah, she's hurt herself, and it's really sad because I would have liked to have known a little bit more backstory about her. You know, if she suffers from depression, you know, because there's events that lead to some pretty severe circumstances in her life. So I'm curious to know what is it about her that makes her feel the need to harm herself, to do self-harm. So that foreshadowing that we see with her injury to her wrist is something that was sad to see, but also at the same time, it's like I want to know more. I want to know more about her mental health and her mental stability. But then we learn more about Dre's mental stability or instability, if you will, when it comes to her love and her support for Nyjah, and just these delusions of grandeur when it comes to how much she thinks that she's going to have this relationship with her when they meet in real life, if that would ever happen. So it's pretty creepy. It does remind me of some, you know, those fatal attraction moments, those moments with stalkers, and how they feel and how they conjure these ideas in their head about their favorite celebrity, and how those parasocial relationship that people sometimes have, and they think that it's a real thing. It's pretty scary. So I'd like to even know more about like what fuels her mental instability, because it's certainly not alcohol, certainly not drugs, it's not any sort of all mood mind altering substances. So what's causing that imbalance in her? I mean, maybe it's just a regular chemical imbalance, which, you know, happens to many people. So yeah, it's interesting, the themes of mental illness and mental health, how it sort of permeates through this show. So
Yep, agreed. Ryan?
Yeah, I was trying to see. Do we know that is it exactly mentioned that they're sisters in this up to this point of the episode? Like, do they directly state it in there already?
they call themselves sisters, but I don't
Oh, they
know if
do
they're
in the beginning.
actually related.
Okay. The only reason I was asking is because if you don't watch anything else about the show, when I first looked at it, I kind of thought about her kissing the scar a little differently.
Right.
So it hit me. I was kind of curious if there was like something else going on, you know, relationship wise. But you know, if it's clearly like, if you know there's a sister bond between them, then obviously that's not what it was. So I just know on me kind of just looking at it, first of all, seeing the scar and her kind of kissing it, and you know, she was doing her makeup and everything, and they lay down on the bed. So I kind of took a different view when I saw that, kind of what I pulled out on that scene. But yeah, I mean, hearing the call back to the scar now, it does actually foreshadow what we know is coming up. But seeing it right off, I was just, you know, finally there was a moment where these two girls can kind of have their moment. They didn't have to leave in around being weird like he was. It was, you know, you can bond a lot when you're doing makeup, talk about a lot of little things, get things out. It's just them two, you know, having a girls' moment that I thought was much needed from how this episode started.
Agreed. Samuel?
Yeah, I think it was when I saw the scar, and then the aftermath of that, when like she was kissing it, she's like, you don't have to keep doing that every single time. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not like from an accident. This is an intention, because it's a self-reflection. Like she's embarrassed by it, and she doesn't want to draw attention to it. But the other thing about it is it's a vertical. It's not horizontal. Like, I mean, cutters, you know, they cut for the feeling. You know, like that's you'll see a lot of different cuts on different arms and legs and stuff like that. But the fact that it was one, meaning that she tried to end her life, which I feel the same way exactly as Jamie is. I would have wanted to know a little bit more about her headspace. It makes sense. Like, she's got this controlling man, this messed up, that she's kind of holding on to. So it's definitely some things going on in her past that I don't know. It made me intrigued. But I think this is the first time when Dre started to kiss that wound, I was like, I don't know if they sisters for real, because this seemed more like a passionate kind of thing to soothe like your partner kind of thing. And I was like, that's the first time that I actually questioned, like, are they actually sisters? And I started to question that. And then after that, when, Marissa kind of had her go to the bed and smoke, and she yet again was like, I don't want to smoke. That led me to believe that she's tried these things before, but she knows what it takes her headspace to. Like, it takes her to a place that she can't control. And it's fascinating that this is something that she's worried about, meaning that she's got a lot of mental instability, because those kind of drugs, like whether it's alcohol or whether it is marijuana, it's going to lead you to this, like, oh, wow, I feel whatever kind of thing. And it's definitely foreshadowing to something that we lead to later on. But it's evident that Dre doesn't want herself to be out of control because she doesn't know what it'll do. And I think that made her 10 times more fascinating as a character. I mean, both of them, honestly, in just a small amount of scenes. Like, there's definitely a love there, but I don't know where that love came from. And I don't know the intentions behind either one of the interactions. Like, it kind of felt really uncomfortable the moment that she started kissing the wound the way that she did. But yeah, those are some of the things I kind of pulled from that scene.
Yeah. Well, I've seen sisters that are blood sisters that are entirely too close, and it's due to codependence. So that's what I read from it was, oh, this is a little sister that's way too codependent on her big sister. And there's more evidence towards that later on in the episode. And also when we talked about the fact that Dre doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, as this episode progresses, we do see she has an addiction to something. Not just Nyjah. It's a way that she copes. And it's interesting. This is what I thought this was messed up. So they obviously fell asleep in Marissa's room, and Marissa goes to work and doesn't even wake up Dre. Dre realizes that she's late after getting text from Marissa asking where she is. So she rushes to the t-shirt kiosk at the mall where their manager Erica, who's played by Karen Rodriguez, is discussing dick pics she got with Marissa and another employee. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but obviously Karen is a white Latina or mestizo Latina, and she was saying nigga, and I was like, so y'all not gonna check her? Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I'm like, she feels very comfortable using that word. So they're shocked at Dre's appearance. She kind of comes in, like, first of all, the way Dominique Fishback walks on the show cracks me up. She kind of like does this like waddle thing.
Little waddle stuff.
Yeah, she does this little waddle thing. I was like, that girl's weird. They're just like, Dre, like, what is wrong with you? Her face has all this makeup all smushed. Her hair looks crazy. She just looks just out of sorts. And Erica's actually, her manager is like, you're late and you look crazy. You cannot work like this. And so Marissa's like, I'll take care of it. So she takes her into the bathroom. She starts cleaning up her makeup, doing her hair. And Dre is not a fan of Erica. She says she talks about sex way too much and she always has something in her teeth. And Marissa's like, chill, she's good people. She helps me with my makeup gigs, but I have to do that job tonight and I need you to cover for me. And if Erica knows that you're going to cover for me, she's not going to let you. So just play it cool. So Dre agrees. And then she tells Marissa, I love you. Like, just like, I love you so much. And Marissa's just like, I know. So I'll stop there.
I'm just going to read some of the comments. Casey says, definitely not a sister bond. That was way too much. Okay. Smooth Art Design Lab says, just in case Drea sees, Nyjah is my favorite artist.
Yes.
Look,
second to that. Me too.
Yeah, Nyjah's my favorite artist. Yeah, just in case. I got to protect myself at all costs. Yes. Marissa and Dre's relationship was riddled with codependence. So completely agree. Yeah. I didn't catch the thing with Erica that you mentioned, Angelica. So that's a good catch. With her using the N-word.
Yeah,
I did not.
Like that.
That wasn't right. We're again like the foreshadowing on. I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record using that word.
Character development was your favorite word. Now it's foreshadowing.
It's now foreshadowing. It's been replaced. But But the foreshadowing on this show is on point because we're seeing how Dre is slowly unraveling, even just in her appearance. So I like how it's, you know, slowly unfolding as we see sort of her mental state, and we're seeing that through her appearance. And also just shout out to Dominique Fishback and her acting. Like you mentioned, like the waddle and the walk, like that. I don't know if that's something that was written on the page or if that's something that Dominique brought herself into the character. But that stuff like that is just absolutely incredible to watch. And that's what makes really compelling acting and performing. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to add to this scene, because there's more to talk about later. So
Yep. Ryan?
Yeah, a lot of it's already been said, but yeah, that walk and the biker shorts with the socks hiked up, I was like, girl, get it. And they had some kind of music going in the thing too, or some kind of sound effect or something that was like going as she was appearing, as she was getting closer to the counter when everybody was waiting on her. So yeah, fantastic. I was pretty much shifted to that because I was like, I know something's ready to go down at this mall. So, you know, yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. I was ready.
Wow. Samuel, also that tweet down there, or that message was funny, but I'm sorry, Samuel, over to you.
No. So it was interesting with Erica because it seemed like she kind of like had like a chip on her shoulder, like an inadequacy complex or something, because it's like, even when, you know, Dre was like, she always talks about sex, she wants to show the perception that she's always got a man, like people are desiring her. And I was kind of like, Marissa, like, I don't know if you can trust this chick. like you're 2 for 2 on the people that you have closest to you that you're trusting. And like, she's just not a good judge of people being good for her. And honestly, Dre included. I mean, I think Dre, you know, definitely has her best interest in mind, but Dre is mentally not sound either. And I think the thing that was interesting is the very first scene from this moment was when Dre woke up and you saw the phone. I think I remember seeing that the Frenchies, I was like, did they ask for Frenchies again? It's like, oh no, just Dre does not respond to text messages. Like, I see text messages from Marissa all the way throughout, but she never responds back. And I was like, that's a weird thing. Like, what does that mean? Like, does she not have a willingness to openly converse even with Marissa? Because you would figure that she would be actively texting back and forth. If she's showing that she's more willing to get on social media and talk about Nyjah with anybody and everybody, but not even her supposed sister. So it was just another little Easter egg they kind of added in. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, agreed. So we moved to the food court, and you know, as you said, Erica's talking about, you know, some guy that she met at some club. You know, there's going to be an after party after Vanessa's party. I don't know who Vanessa is, but her name gets thrown around. And he's DJing an after party. There's going to be free drinks before 1 p.m. So, you know, she was told to bring her cute friends. And as this scene is going on, they're all talking, but Dre is just stuffing her mouth, right? She's just stuffing her mouth with food. She's obviously not comfortable in this conversation, so she'll eat instead. But something does get her attention. I don't know why she decides to like step out of her comfort zone, but she was like, hey, can I come? And Erica was like, no, because you're not going to drink and you're weird and you're just going to sit there and watch us. So they're like, nah, girl, we good on you. So I don't know if you guys want to comment. That's a really small scene, but it was very telling if you want to comment on that one part.
I mean, I can empathize with emotional eating. I'm an emotional eater. And, you know, I've also suffered, and, you know, I'll be frank, I've suffered from depression. So when I do go through bouts of depression, I will stuff my face. So I think that, you know, the way that Dre copes and using food as that way to cope, to medicate, is a real thing, and that is part of what really draws me to the realness of her character and what makes her very three-dimensional, because we all have sort of our vices. Marissa has her vice, and you know, other people have their vices through using mind-altering substances like smoking, drinking, et cetera, and even though Dre doesn't do those things, hers is food. So yeah, that just, you know, for me personally, like that was something that I could really relate to. And I think that is something that probably a number of people can relate to, in seeing that it's an aspect of Dre that she's not like this character that's like this, how can I describe it? Like, she's not so out there where she's extraordinary. Like, it's a character that you just wouldn't imagine being real. Like, no, this is someone that actually is someone that could be a sister, could be a friend, could be a cousin, could be someone that is your next door neighbor. So, she's a little crazy, but she's someone that is dealing with her own stuff. So that was real.
Yeah, and I think it's such a small scene, but it goes back to the fact of just the way you treat people. You don't know what people are going through. We all off the top talked about, when she came in, she was giving a weird vibe, right? Like, there's something different about this girl. She doesn't exactly fit this cooker cutter image that you're ready for. But she said, "Can I go to the party with you? Can I come?" And they're like, "No, I'm good." So it's more of like that isolation of her trying to put herself out there, and people being rude, being mean, pushing her back. So where is she gonna go? So it's interesting that how they cram that into like such a little small scene. And like James said, the emotional eating. She's falling back on stuff that she can count on because she's getting pushed back on people that are supposed to, like, she thinks she can count on people, but it's not working out right now. So she's getting ready to find some other avenues. So it gets real interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Samuel?
Yeah, you guys pretty much said everything. The only thing I was thinking about is that maybe she was hoping that there might be a Niger song playing during like the party or event, because it's kind of like she loves music. She keeps music in her head at all times. So it's like, well, maybe this is an opportunity for me to kind of just let loose or just have a moment, and maybe they'll also, in the same token, like accept me to be able to go. Because it's not like a huge ask. It's like, So. But yeah, you guys said pretty much everything else.
Yeah. And I think the scene before, Marissa had encouraged her to kind of get offline and start making new friends. So maybe this party was a way for her to get out there. So the next scene is, she's at the kiosk, she's folding shirts. And Khalid pops up, he's asking where Marissa's at. And Dre's like, "I'm covering her shift." So Khalid was like, "All right, well, can you come with me to the store real quick?" So he takes her to a perfume shop. And I love Damson Idris' accent. He's British, but he really nails that like Houston, Southern, but kind of like streetwise, like he a nigga. I just like it. Anyways, I might have been, I've dated a Khalid in my past, but we're not gonna get into that. So he takes her to a perfume shop and he's asking Dre for advice on what to get Marissa for her birthday. Like, what's her favorite scent? And she's like, "Oh, it's purple." And he's like, "Oh, so lavender." And then he mentions, "I know you and Marissa say you're sisters, but y'all don't really look that much alike. Like, I don't know, something's different." And then he also mentions, like, "Why can't we be friends? Like, you're always mean mugging me and giving me one-word answers." And she's like, "I don't like you because you said Nyjah wasn't special. And if she's not special, then nobody is." And he was like, "What are you, 12?" But then he kind of backs off, and he realizes he's insulting her and he apologizes for speaking poorly of Nyjah. And then he shifts gears and he kind of gets very close. Like, you see, at first they were kind of like this, and then you see Khalid kind of get closer and closer. And then he does this kind of cute thing that probably would have made me fold, where he starts talking to her and he puts his cap on backwards so he could be closer to her face. And he was like, "I kind of like you. You're filled out nice. You like to hide your body, but I could see, you're kind of cute." And he tells her, like, "You don't have to be a virgin forever." Like, he's basically saying, like, "Give me a shot. I know you saw me watching you. I know you see what I could do. Like, what's up?" And he leans in to try to kiss her. And I love her reaction. She just goes like this and then walks away. Like, she just totally ditches him. So I'll stop there for that interesting scene between her and Khalid.
Again, Khalid is trash. Like, this is the guy that we saw in the opening scene getting it on with Marissa in the most explicit way.
Picture pop up.
She's gonna torture us with this.
but we knew what was up. Foreshadowing. We knew it was up when he was like looking over at Marissa. So I'm looking at Dre. So yeah, he's obviously not loyal to his girlfriend at all. And he is checking for other women, and he's intrigued by Dre. He's intrigued by the fact that she's a virgin, and I guess now he's her next. She's the next target for him. So yeah, this is just Khalid being Khalid, and probably it makes me wonder how many other women has he been seeing with outside of his relationship with Marissa. I have a feeling that there's been many. So
for sure.
That's all I'll say to that.
Ryan?
Yeah, that perfume thing was real creepy. I was like, what did he get ready to do here? Because it was weird. You know, when he get ready to go to a perfume shop with her and not do something weird. So I was like, what's getting ready to happen here? But I like how Dre, she was ready. You know, we kind of think of her as, you know, almost as, you know, a victim in a sense, which she is in some factors, but she kind of breaks out of that as we continue to go, where it's like we fully don't know what she's all about. And so I like how she had a comeback for him. Because, you know, usually sometimes when you have the quiet, kind of shy person and you got somebody like Khalid, you kind of, you know, fall into it a little bit or back off a little bit. She's like, yeah, that's a no. You can keep it moving. You can get away from me. So I like that was good. My speaking of sisters though, by the way, I watched this with my sister, and she is a huge like Snowfall, Damson Idris fan. She was fit to be tired. Like she got up, came back, said. So I was just curious of like what, like I have to call him Franklin Saint whenever I'm around her talking about this guy, and she just had it. And I'm just curious about what people thought about this different side of him. You know, he's not exactly like, you know, your stand-up good guy on Snowfall, but, you know, he has some different angles to him where it's not this guy. So I thought it was so interesting for them to have him on this show and play this up like this, because, like, he's speaking truth, but it's not exactly the way we want to hear it coming from him. So it was very interesting the way they played this.
Yeah, agreed. Samuel?
Yeah, I mean, I just love their acting capability. Like they were playing off each other so well, because it for a minute I kind of was like, I was believing like, okay, this is this douchebag really trying to push up on, you know, the other sister, and then there's a shy girl that is mentally unstable, but she's more offended by what he did, what he said, than even, you know, what he's been capable of doing with against her own sister. So I think their acting is just amazing with this. The thing about it, which is Khalid, is yet again he used the truth, and he also apologized. But the reason why he apologized because he's like, if I don't apologize, this girl ain't gonna give me a chance later. That's the only reason. It wasn't because he was trying to spare her feelings. He did that because like, yeah, I gotta cater to what she needs so I can continue to try to pull her in. I'll get her some kind of way. It's like he's obsessed with the idea of trying to get her, and he just thinks that she's gonna fold. He really thought like if he gets close enough that she was gonna, you know, fold. And I love the fact that she just kind of turned and looked away about it, but she did it in such the weirdest way. And I don't even know why she did it, because I was initially thinking she did it because of the comment. She's still offended by that. But I think it's more so loyalty to her sister. Like she's devoted also to Marissa, like not obsessed, but she's very heavily devoted to her. And that's, I mean, it's also foreshadowing for what's about to come next. So
yeah, she did like the Homer Simpson, like that meme where he just puts his head up and just turns and walks away. I thought that was just brilliant. A brilliant decision on Dominique's part. So unfortunately, that little trip she took to the perfume shop with Khalid kind of got her into some trouble, because when she returns to the kiosk, there's teenagers vandalizing it and stealing merchandise. And this lady, a customer, is like, what the hell are y'all doing? But this scene took me out because she was like, you work here? My son purchased this inappropriate shirt. Can I exchange it?
McDonald's love written all over.
Yes, yep.
Oh, that took me out. I was dying. But obviously, you know, she's supposed to be covering for Marissa. This is not good that the store got vandalized when she's supposed to be watching the shop. So obviously she calls Marissa, who's getting ready for her gig. Marissa is not happy about what went down, so she goes to pick up Dre from the mall. She's sitting outside, and Erica is in the corner smoking, just looking at them like, I hate these women. I can't believe they did this to me. And you could tell it's going to be an awkward car ride. We don't even get the car ride. We just get to them going straight home. And they get him. She's really upset, and Dre's trying to apologize, and she's not trying to hear it. Marissa's like, no. I'm probably going to get fired. Like, stop apologizing. But then you can tell she tries to like brighten up, and she goes, well, you know what? I plan on quitting anyway. Vanessa hooked me up with the interview for a makeup artist job. Like, the fact that we live together and work together, maybe this is a good thing that we're taking space. And she starts to pack up, and she says, like, it's time for me to take care of myself. So Dre interrupts her and like trying to bring her back. Like, let me bring her back to me. And she's like, I got us Niger tickets for your birthday. Surprise. And Marissa was like, how'd you get them? But, I can't even go because Khalid is taking me to Atlanta for my birthday. And when we get back, I'm going to move in with him. And Dre's like, you can see like she starts to unravel. She's like clutching her stomach, and she's like self-soothing, like, why are you doing this to me? Marissa's like, I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for me. And, Dre is like trying to convince her every which way, like, why do you want to move in with Khalid? He's no good for you. He's a cheater. He tried to have sex with me. And Marissa was like, how is it that every single guy I bring around you have a problem with? Like, I'm not trying to hear this. Stop talking. And Dre's like holding on to Marissa, and Marissa's just like, get off me. And she like gets off, and she like basically runs outside and gets in her car, and Dre runs after her, and Marissa's like, just leave me alone for 1 fucking minute, like yelling out the car as she's speeding off. So that's how it ends. And Dre's just sitting there like, what just happened? So I'll stop there.
It was interesting to see the switch and the tone of Marissa when she was sort of saying, oh, well, I got to make a job anyway, and everything's going to be okay. Like, it's like she masks her emotions intentionally, and she's maybe has this fear of failure, or she doesn't want people to see her in a state of failure or something. Because I just thought Chloe did a really great job of just showing this moment where this didn't faze Marissa. Like, this did not upset her at all, when clearly everything was just going against everything according to plan. So to see that switch where she's like, oh, don't worry, I was going to get another makeup job anyway, and everything's going to be all right. And it's like, how many times has she done that in her life where things didn't go as planned, things messed up, there was a moment of failure, and she tried to just cover it up and just create this mask, and the pressure of that, and just letting that compound in her life. And that probably leads to a lot of more of her, that's probably really toxic to her mental health, I would imagine. So that's just something that stuck out to me in that moment that I just wanted to discuss.
Yeah, agreed. And Ryan, what were your thoughts on that scene?
We're going back to the kiosk a little bit. I was kind of wondering if it was a setup a little bit, but I guess you can't really plan out Vanessa. I was kind of wondering about that, because I thought that I was just like, I was just like, this girl cannot catch a break. It was just like one thing after another. So I was just kind of curious about that. But maybe it's just her luck. That's just sad. Maybe it was just a sad situation. But I was kind of thinking about that. But yeah, it's just seeing Marissa and Dre go through this, my heart was breaking, that whole scene, because it was like as bad as like it's mentally what they're going through, where it's like they're very toxic for each other in a sense, but at the same time they need each other because they understand each other. So it becomes very dangerous when you kind of break that up and you see the reliance, the dependence they have on one to the other. So I was very nervous for Dre in this scene, because you could tell it was like, this is somebody she depends on. And she's pulling away from her. She's like, I can't save you anymore. I have to worry about paying this rent. It's real life things going on here. And you just hopping around, skipping from things to the next. You don't realize how serious it is. So yeah, that scene was hard for me, because I was like, something is this. That's where the whole thing shifted, where it's like, who does Dre rely on right now? Marissa, she's going down this bad boyfriend path and nobody can stop her. So it was very interesting the way these two ladies played that. So yeah.
Yep. Samuel?
Yeah, I actually thought it was a setup. be honest with you. I was kind of like, Lee, why you take her to a perfume stop? I was like, okay, maybe you're trying to find a gateway with that. But it's like the timing was just too on the nose. I was like, but I also didn't understand why he would set her up like that and in turn setting his own girlfriend up. But then the other thought I had was maybe Erica did it because she just don't like she don't like Dre, period. But it just felt too on the nose. But that also is Donna Glover's like comedy in general. Like you said, like the lady was like, yeah, I don't like this t-shirt. My son was like, I need this return. But the thing about this scene that I thought was amazing was Chloe and Dominique's acting. Chloe especially, because like you said, Jamie, like she's not able to deal with when things don't go the way that she wants them to. She just masks it. And anytime you kind of bury stuff, you're not really dealing with anything. And so even if, you know, somebody has said something about Dre or Khalid, like she would just kind of revert it and just keep moving forward and she wouldn't be able to deal with it. Eventually she's going to explode. And so I thought that was very fascinating how they kind of played that up. Like she kind of just like, oh, it's going to be okay. I'm going to do this. You're going to be okay. And, you know, the weird thing about it though, is I was kind of like, Dre, like, probably don't call Marissa, like call Erica or call somebody else because you're compromising your sister's opportunity. Like her head went, oh, I got to tell Marissa. She wasn't even thinking. And then that also goes back to when she told her about the tickets. Like Khalid had already told her that I'm planning on taking her. She had forgot all about that as well. It was more so like, we're going to Niger concert. This is the focus. So my question to you guys is, was she more upset that Marissa was leaving her, or was it she more upset that Marissa was leaving without going to the concert to see Niger? Because the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, she's codependent. Like she needs Marissa. But I'm wondering if she was more upset that she knows that Marissa's not receiving the gift that she gives, the sacrifice she gives for Niger, for them to be able to go together. Because I didn't think about that until the second time around watching it. The other thing is when she told her about him cheating and he's not good for her, and like Chloe did such a good job being just silent and kind of holding it in, but more and more Drake kept getting closer and closer, and it kind of mimicked what Khalid did to Dre. It was like she's getting closer and closer, and I was like, what? I was almost convinced that they were not sisters just in that whole interaction, because it's not just a toxic codependency. It's more so like a controlling situation that's happening, and they're not on the same exact page. Whereas Marissa is dealing with something that she's not able to deal with, and then Dre is just off in a completely different trajectory because she's not thinking about the ramifications of her actions at all, or what it's gonna do to hurt her sister. She's just trying to figure out how she can keep her to get what she needs. So it was well acted. It was one of the key moments in this episode for me.
Yeah. And I think you asked, whether it was upset about, upset about the concert tickets or upset about Marissa leaving. I think it was a combination of both. It was like, I need you. You're my big sister. You take care of me. You can't leave me to face this war by myself. And the fact that they were so close and were so like intertwined when it came to Niger fandom, and the fact that Marissa's outgrowing this and she'd rather go to Atlanta with her boyfriend than go to a Niger concert. Like, I'm losing her. So I think it was just all of that, like, overlapping over each other.
Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So our next scene, obviously Dre is still dealing with the fallout with her big fight with Marissa. And she's just kind of staring up at, pictures in her room. You get a glimpse of a picture with her and Marissa during happier times at a Niger concert. And she starts to get tweet notifications. And she sees that the Swarm is posting about Niger's surprise album drop festival. The drop, it kind of echoes Beyonce's self-titled 5th studio album, the midnight out of nowhere drop. Everyone was going crazy. And then the content of Niger's album is reminiscent of Lemonade. So the Swarm is like gushing over the new music, and many are really surprised about how open Niger is about her husband Cash's infidelity. And just, so just like with Lemonade, Nyjah drops a festival like visual album. So Dre immediately goes to her TV, starts to watch the visual album, and she is moved by this. Like Nyjah's artistry is just speaking to her soul. She's brought to tears. She gets hot at some point. She starts like to take off her clothes, almost like she's being baptized in this Nyjah festival movement. And she ends up getting a text from Marissa, and Marissa's like, "Hey, have you seen Festival? This is so good. You know, she's writing this from my own very heart." And then she, like you said, Samuel, she keeps texting Dre, and Dre's not responding. And she's like, "Dre, where are you? Pick up, pick up." So we don't know at this point, but there's something really wrong. And for whatever reason, Dre is inspired by Naya's energy. She gets all dolled up and goes to the club. And at the club, and it might be the same club that Erica was talking about earlier in the episode, because if you notice, there's a whole line of men, and then Dre gets in like right away for free because she's a woman. So there's Nyjah visuals on projected on the screens, and Dre somehow got this confidence about her. She walks up to this young man, played by Kieran Culkin, and tells them like, "You should dance with me." And they start dancing, and she ends up making out with him in the stairwell. And then she wakes up the next morning in his bed, and he's making strawberries. He's washing strawberries in a glass bowl, and he's like, "Hey, you want a strawberry?" And she's just like, "Okay." And great scene. His like flaccid member is like up against the glass bowl. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Equal opportunity community." And you know, as long as we got a little bit of Chloe, but we're getting a lot of man nudity. So she pretty much puts together that she slept with this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, it was amazing." And you know, she's like, "Okay, like I'm kind of impressed with myself," because you know, from what all we know, she's a virgin. So she goes to the bathroom, and he starts talking to her through the door. He's clearly very into her. She plugs up her phone, which obviously died overnight, and there's a barrage of messages from Marissa. It's like a flurry, you know. She says Khalid's a cheater. You know, they got into a really big fight. He left her stranded. She needs Dre to pick up the phone, you know. And then she starts to reading these rambling messages about you know, ranging from Khalid cheating to praise about Nyjah's new album, to the fact that Nyjah's husband cheated on her, the fact that Marissa has really bad luck with men, and she's just like, "I'm just so effed up right now." So it just all kind of goes downhill. You can tell that Marissa is spiraling. So I'll stop there before we jump into the next scene.
So do you think that Dre, in this moment of just, you know, at the club, she's all dressed up and sort of intoxicated by all things Nyjah, that she is embodied by this new persona, like maybe she's her own Sasha Fierce, and that's how she gets embroiled into this entanglement with the Kieran Culkin character? Because that's the only thing I can understand logically would make sense as to why she would suddenly get into a one-night stand with a complete stranger, if she is in fact a virgin on this show, which I don't think she's ever confirmed that she's a virgin. It's only implied by Khalid's character. So she never actually says, "Yeah, I am a virgin." So I'm curious to know if that's kind of the theory here, the working theory, as far as like from a writing standpoint. Is she supposed to be Sasha Fierce and she's this different persona, and that's how she gets into these shenanigans with this complete stranger and has this very interesting evening. So yeah, that's it.
All right.
Yeah, that I love how they had her pull into the Nyjah release when she's just going through something so emotional, and they have her pulling into like hearing the new song, and it's like she just needed something. She was like, "I need something." Yeah, the fruit bowl scene threw me all the way out too. I'm with you, girl. I was like, "What is going on?"
I got 2 of them bowls. I'll never use them again. I got 2 of them. Actually 3. I will never use them.
That would throw me out. But yeah, that I like how they're still playing to the fact of like that. If you're a fan, if you're a real fan, that kind of stuff, it's just pulling you into knowing like this is why these people create these fan accounts. This is why they follow these celebrities. This is what it means to them to be able to see a new release drop, to be able to see a video. You know, they're scoping out every time, like you get that notification, ding, Renaissance comes out, everybody loses their mind. Like everybody got a TikTok video, it goes crazy. So I love how they're slowly pulling us into like what it means, you know, to be this stand and to really get into a fan group and what it means to these people. And then going to like the whole football situation. The first thing, like obviously ain't nobody getting that strawberry. Like I don't even know why he even tried. I don't know what's happening. But I was just like, before you get to the seed though, or I guess if you look above the seed, I was like, I didn't know he had brothers that were doing X. I was like, is that Macaulay Culkin? Because I just saw like the sound. I was like,
oh yeah, he has several brothers that are actors.
And I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's like the first thing that popped into my head. I was like, did I see that scene correctly? So you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to interrupt real quick. That is not Kiernan. That's Rory. That's the youngest.
Oh, Rory.
So I got him.
Okay.
Yeah,
It looks so like
Signs back in the day.
yeah.
Oh,
And he was in
okay.
Scream.
There you go.
But I'm
Shout
sorry.
out
Go
to
ahead. Rory
Shout out.
Culkin. Sorry.
Shout out to the Culkin brothers doing the thing, because I was just looking like maybe I saw something in that scene because I did not know what was going on. I was like, what is happening? I was like, they just got all kind of cameos and stuff in here, but yeah, I found out too that that was like Donald Glover, that story about the fruit bowl and stuff was like something from his back in the day past or something. I think he had cherries, so he didn't have strawberries, so that can just, you know, if you guys are curious what kind of fruit they had in there. But apparently they pulled that from his past to kind of put a little twist on it. It's something he wanted to add to the story is what I read. Because I was like, who thinks of these scenes and everything, these moments that they put in here? But yeah, you know, Donald Glover and Janine Nabers, they going in, boy, they getting you those scenes that's gonna keep you to the end of this. But it was interesting to see her reaction to what happened. You got Dre on one side, you got Marissa on the other, and it just went the farthest left as possible for both of them, and it was just insane the way the scene unfolded.
Yeah, it was weird. Samuel?
Yeah, I think the thing that I focused on most was when she just came so immersed with the festival video. Like, I give credit to Dominique because she started like licking her lips, like she was salivating and just absorbing everything that was going on. And it kind of felt like, I was like, is Donald Glover about to have like a possession scene? Because honestly, from the moment that this happened, and then all of a sudden she just became a completely different person, I was like, no, I've never seen her even walk like this. I've never seen her kind of carry herself like that. It really felt like this is a completely different person. And that's why I was wondering, I was like, Donna, is this a horror? Like, did she just become like possessed by this, idea of Nyjah? So I really didn't know what kind of show I was about to get, but then, wake up in the morning, she had a good night or whatever, which is the craziness with the Macaulay Culkin brother. But the weird thing was, turned on the phone and you see the FaceTime with Marissa, and like she is just so desperate, and she's like, I need you, where are you? And then you see all the text messages, and it goes right back. It was foreshadowing before. Like, I was like, she wasn't even responding to text messages before, so why did Marissa think she was going to answer them now? Like, and it's just sad because it's that spiral. Like, she never dealt with even the conversation she had with Dre, so it was already touch and go. And then Dre was just completely outside of herself anyway, so she wasn't there to be there for Marissa. And I mean, the other question that I had about it is like, when is she ever really there for Marissa? From what we've seen from the first episode, like, I know what she loves about Marissa. I know what she sees Marissa as, but what does she really truly contribute for Marissa to help her or confide in her? Because the only reason why she told Marissa about Dre is because she was worried about her losing Marissa. And so it was a really intense moment. But it was also, I didn't know what Donald Glover was about to give me from the moment she was on the TV to the moment that she was at the club. I was like, nah, this is not the same person. I don't know what's going on.
Gosh, she was definitely possessed by the spirit of Nyjah, because like you said, her walk was different. Like, she was walking straight. She wasn't doing that shuffling thing, awkward thing she was doing before. She was very confident. And I really hope that was Rory Culkin's body double, because my eyes, never again will I look at him the same.
Samuel, you bring up a good point. Like, what does what does Dre bring to the relationship other than her stand-in for Nyjah? She really doesn't bring anything to the relationship with Marissa, and I feel like she kind of just sucks everything out of, you know, as far as like all of the resources that Marissa gives her. Like Marissa gives her money, she provides her a place to stay, you know, she provides her friendship, food, but like, and then they share this commonality for loving all things Nyjah. But aside from that, like what does she contribute to the relationship? So that's a good point. It's like, I feel like it's very one-sided, and unfortunately that's like a pattern in Marissa's life. Like she doesn't have anybody that really shows her love and comfort, because we see that in her relationship with Khalid. Like it's a one-sided relationship. It seems like Marissa is just the giver in all of her relationships, and she doesn't really get anything out of it.
Yep, for sure. So Dre ends up going home. Obviously, she needs to check on Marissa, noting all these text messages and how distraught she is over Khalid cheating. But before she goes in the house, she picks up, you know, her Nyjah tickets from the mailbox. She goes into Marissa's room and intent on surprising her with these tickets, but she's unable to, you know, rouse her from her sleep. And, you know, she kind of like jumps on the bed, and you expect Marissa to be like, girl, get off the bed, you know, something. And she doesn't move. And then she kind of jumps again, and Marissa doesn't move. And then you notice there's blood on the pillow. And Dre grabs Marissa's face, and we see that either she's dead or she's completely out of it. Like her eyes are crossed. She's not all there. So at the hospital, you know, Dre's informed by the staff, or we can draw the conclusion that she's informed by the hospital staff that they were unable to resuscitate Marissa. And Dre is devastated. You know, she spends it looks like a few days crying and screaming and binge eating in Marissa's bed. And of course, being that Marissa was like the main supporter of that household, she can't afford to pay rent anymore. And so she kind of lays depressed on the couch. I know there's a tear that rolls down her face as a moving crew is packing up the apartment. And she ends up at the corner store in search for more food, you know, to binge. And she accidentally breaks a bottle of Coke. She ends up picking up the glass shards, and she squeezes her hand around it so tightly that she begins to bleed. And then she ends up going back to her apartment, which is empty at this point. And I'm assuming she's in Marissa's room, and she's rewatching older videos of Marissa and her as kids, you know, standing over Nyjah. She scrolls through Marissa's Instagram and her Twitter account, and she's reading comments. You know, some people are offering condolences about Marissa's death. Some people are actually laughing about it because supposedly, you know, she killed herself because of Festival, after listening to Festival. And Dre ends up texting Marissa and says that she really misses her. And then she hears Marissa's phone goes off. So it's been plugged up in the closet the whole time. And there's like a bag next to the phone that's a little bloody as well. I don't know if you guys noticed that. But in any case, Dre is so relieved because she relies on Marissa. Like the two most important people in her life are Marissa and Nyjah, right? And so she grabs Marissa's phone and she texts herself back, I miss you too. So I'm going to pause there, but I did want to bring up, you know, we're talking about real life events. There was this urban legend when Lemonade came out that a girl named Marissa Jackson killed herself after learning that Beyonce was cheated on by Jay-Z when she was listening to the Lemonade album. So, you know, someone as amazing and you know, popular and powerful as Beyonce can get cheated on, like, where does that leave me? So obviously it's fake, it's an urban legend, but Donald Glover drew such inspiration from that he named the character on the show Marissa Jackson. So I'll stop there for your thoughts.
I did not know that. That is interesting. Amber brings up a good point in the comments. Dre was the person that was there for Marissa during her suicide attempt. So I guess in that respect, maybe that is what Dre brings to their relationship. But I don't know. I still stand by the fact that I feel like it's very one-sided. This was so sad to see. It was just so sad to see. I still, it's a mystery to me still as to why Marissa killed herself. I'm not quite following. I didn't get enough subtext. I didn't get enough backstory on Marissa to understand what led down this path. I mean, she has attempted suicide before, but going back to our conversation before, like we haven't gotten much history about her mental health and her and what she's dealt with in the past that's made her want to do self-harm. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, what was it about this that triggered her to go, all the way in with committing suicide? So I guess that's probably a question for you guys, or for those of you that are listening in the comments, if you want to leave some feedback, because I wasn't following as to what led down this really tragic path for Marissa.
Yeah, because the weird thing for me is I kind of took it that, I mean, Marissa is always there for everybody else. She's always the dependable one. And, people that are so dependable, the one thing that they absolutely need, they cannot be alone. And the biggest thing is that, whereas Dre doesn't necessarily contribute, she's always there. And that's why the codependency, continued to spiral back and forth, like never revolving. And she kind of thought she could confide in this man. And it's sad because, like, Dre probably, if she was available, she knew for a fact that Dre would kind of take her back and be there for her. And I think that the moment that she felt completely alone and that Dre was ignoring her, Khalid had cheated on her, she just had no one. And I mean, as much as she kind of like said Erica is like looking out for, I don't think she really and truly believed that Erica would be somebody that she could depend on. And so I think, honestly, it was that point that she just felt completely absent and alone. And I think that anybody that's dealing with a history of mental illness, or if they're just feeling this place of being alone or closed in, especially like, I mean, using the pandemic as an example, the past 3 years of this pandemic, people's mental health has just completely changed. And you feel self-isolation and you feel like there's no way out. There's no way to go. You can't depend on anybody else. You're not going to make it forward. And I think the thing is, like, she has all these hopes of doing something more next, but that may be the only thing kind of keeping her afloat outside of her codependent relationships. And that's kind of what I took from it, is that she felt completely alone and absent of everybody and everything. And if she has nothing left good for her. But yeah, that's kind of what I took from it.
Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that fight felt like it was different. And so I felt like when she finally was, even though she knows she doesn't answer texts, sometimes Marissa's or Dre is always off doing her own thing, not really paying attention. But I think she felt like, okay, she's not, I'm telling her I need her. I've sent her like, 10 or something texts in a row. She's not answering. Okay, I really messed up this relationship. Somebody that's, like Sam was saying, somebody that's there for me is not answering. Somebody I know is always there and dependable. Whether she has her faults or not, she's always there. She's not answering me. So, okay, I really messed up now. I have this guy that's trifling that I know I'm not going to stay with and be with. And then the person that's always there, I can't come back to. So I think that was just like the final straw, which was sad to see. And we saw Dre spiral as a result of that. We were like, okay, this is not good. Like it automatically flipped, who she was. She's emotionally eating. She's crying. She's not really saying a bunch of stuff. We just see her sitting around here like, uh-oh, she's falling down that hole, and something's not going to be right about this. And you see the comments of people's reaction to her sister passing. And she's all about, like, that is her reality. That whatever comes through that feed for her that day on that account, that's her reality. That's what she's feeding into, and that's what she has to rely on. So it gets real dangerous. And Dominique plays this with just a facial emotion. She doesn't have to say a lot, and you're like, okay, something's going down here. That's not gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
And real quick, I just want to address, Marissa says, but what about her parents? We'll learn about her parents in later episodes. So just FYI.
But yeah, to everyone's point, I can add on to that sentiment. I feel like if you're not someone that is in control of your emotions and you're constantly bottling them up when it explodes, right? to you, it's like your head is spinning, you don't know up from down, and that security blanket that she has in Dre isn't there, and all you are is you with yourself and your thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts, they're like a bunch of people yelling you at the same time. You just want it to end. So I think, she's already someone who doesn't deal with her emotions very well. She's already had this history. She really loved this guy. He's a cheater. She got into a big fight with her little sister. This Nyjah album apparently has this almost haunting effect on people. You see how Dre acted after listening to it. So all these things are culminating, and you're making kind of a temporary decision off of, a temporary solution to something that you can potentially work through in the long run. So I think she was just like, I'm out. But that's just my thought. It did feel like a quick reaction to me. Like, I'm like, oh, where'd this come from? Even with the foreshadowing of her having tried to kill herself before. But when I really sat and thought about it, when you're alone in your room and you just can't deal, like, you sometimes do crazy things. So that's where we leave Chloe Bailey's character. I was kind of sad to see her go. I wanted more, and we do get more, but she's not present on the show. So Dre ends up arriving at Marissa's funeral, and she's dressed wildly inappropriate. Like, people usually wear dark colors at funerals. She's wearing like a tight, bright orange mini dress. So I'm like, what are we doing? And she approaches the casket with Marissa's body. And by the way, Marissa's makeup looked awful. I'm like, who did the body? Like, who did that to her face? And she's also like, remember happier times with Marissa. She's approached by the funeral director, who tells Dre Marissa's family wants her to leave. And Dre's like, what do you mean? That's my sister. I am her family. And she's like, the director's like, look, it's the Lord's Day. Their only wish is to bury their child in peace. So she ends up leaving. She's kind of in a daze. I think she's in the cemetery of the church, and she sees a beehive, so a swarm of bees congregating, and she just kind of like, you can tell something's not right. She's just staring off in the distance, and she sees an image of a woman. It looks like, I couldn't tell if it was Nyjah or Marissa, but it was someone that she loves and adores within the swarm of bees, and we hear that bees buzzing sound that we've heard throughout the episode. So I'll stop there before we get into the final scene of the episode.
I'll start by addressing a comment. Amber, you bring up a really good point. I think it's such a testament to Marissa, unstable mental health. Dre bought her a reason to be stable and gave her emotional support. I think you're right. I think that, the reason why I was saying that it's one-sided is because that's just the way I saw how it was written on the show. Like, perhaps if the show had shown some moments where we saw that emotional support, I would buy that. And you're probably right. Like, I guess from subtext, right? Like stuff that we don't see, that emotional support was given. But I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of that we could actually see, that we could buy that Dre was an emotional support for Marissa. Because to me, it just, the way it was presented on the show, or it presented on this episode, the relationship still felt very one-sided. But then going back to these scenes here, yeah, the funeral scene was sad. It was sad that the parents kicked out Dre, which tells me that I guess there's been it's a tempestuous relationship between them. Curious to know what's going on with that situation, why they just decided to kick her out. So yeah, I didn't think she was dressed inappropriately, and I don't know, I thought her dress was okay. And I didn't pay much attention.
I will be put out for that. Maybe because I'm a little top heavy, but I will be put out for that dress at a funeral.
Yeah, I didn't see it was that bad. And I didn't pay much attention to Marissa's makeup, so I gotta rewatch that episode. But yeah, yeah, I just, the swarm of bees is just, I love it. I love that it's just, I think you mentioned it, Samuel, like on the nose. It's so on the nose with the bees and the swarms and the beehive. It's like, okay, we get it, Donald. We get it, Janine. Like, we know who you're talking about here. But yeah, it's, the buzzing sound lets us know, it clues us in to also this slow downfall of Dre's sort of mental stability and sort of where we're going to see her go next. Because I think that's probably what the bees kind of represent. It's like how badly her mental stability goes. I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but anyways, yeah, there's something with the swarm and the bees and like where she goes with just like how bad she goes as far as like, anyways, there's something with the bees and then and her like the direction of where she goes with her intentions and her evil intentions that I feel like are like correlated, if that makes sense.
It's like a calling card to the audience that something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you hear that buzz, you know it's going down. So that they get scary after a minute. So but yeah, I will add to Angelica earlier saying I was very sad to see Chloe go. I thought like the social media build up you had to it, I was like, I can't wait to see Chloe's part in this. And she was the way she was acting up to that. So it was sad to see her for many reasons. But to go out early. So I can't kind of wait to see her, to catch her in some other stuff. But yeah, when she showed up at the dress of the funeral, I was like, and then she walked all the way to the front. Maybe, and I guess she was channeling Freakum J. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe she was channeling Naja. Like maybe that was supposed to be her thing. Like she just always comes out in her dresses. Maybe she could maybe if you put it in black, I don't know. Like I just knew like something bad was gonna happen because of what she was wearing, and she walked all the way to the front, and you could tell like the service maybe was getting ready to start or almost started, and the way she kind of arrived didn't look like it was good, but. Yeah, as soon as she was getting ready to get kicked out, the common thing we've been throwing throughout this recap here, backstory. I automatically want to know. I was like, so why is she not invited? What's going on? You know, why did they want to kick her out? What's the deal between these two ladies? So that'll definitely be interesting as we kind of go through that and discover that more. But yeah, I mean, you know, the swarm is happening. It's full effect now.
Samuel?
Yeah, I think it was when, like I said, when she went to the funeral, and I mean, I didn't really pay attention to Marissa's makeup, but it's very ironic and tragic that her makeup would be a mess when she prides herself on just that. That's kind of sad and tragic. But when the preacher was kind of like the family, you know, wants to make sure they just take care of their child and, you know, have this go through smoothly as the Lord's Day, I was like, okay, I immediately was like, okay, I don't think that they're related.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe Naja was the thing that kind of connected them, maybe post her suicide attempt or something like that. But whatever their relationship is, from the perception of Marissa's family, it's not good, and it's never been good for it, because they wouldn't have brought that up. They kind of would have maybe said, well, can she kind of like, you know, not make a mess, or please be careful. They told her to leave. You only say that when there's been an actual altercation or something that's happened, or a cycle of stuff that's happened. And then going back to the chat, somebody was kind of like, what about the parents? There's a reason why Marissa didn't go back to the parents for help, just in general, in the state that she was in. I mean, she could have easily at any time been like, hey, you know, Dre got us fired. I need some money. Can you help? She didn't do that. So I don't know what her past is with her parents, but all this is tied to Dre in some way, shape, or form. And I can almost bet it's also tied to Naja as well, which is fascinating. Now, I love the sound that Donald chooses because you, like you said, you know something's about to go down. But I just didn't know. And I think it was at this moment I was like, okay, I'm about to see what kind of show this actually is very soon. Because I was like, I don't know where she's about to go next. And I don't know what she's gonna do. I mean, like you said, like the Angelica, the texting back and forth, I was kind of like, okay, that's a clear sign of dissociative disorder possibly rearing up. But I don't know. I don't know what she's about to do. But yeah, that's all I kind of have for that.
Well, we quickly change gears when she leaves that funeral. She pays a visit to Khalid. She has to come inside, and he's like, "Yeah, I got you. Let me put my dog in the back." And then he invites her inside. And Dre, in hindsight, there's a reason why she asked, "Is this your house?" But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. But she was like, "Is this your house?" And he says, "Yeah, I grew up here. You know, my parents recently split. My dad's out of town." So she know that he's alone. And then he's like, "Oh, what happened to your hand?" And she says, "Oh, I cut it on some glass." And he offers her a beer. So once again, he does not pay attention, and she declines. And she's like, "Hello, I don't drink." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that." So they sit down, and Khalid confesses that they got into a fight. Like, him and Marissa got into a fight. He's like, "We got into a fight. Like, that's what we did. Like, I never thought it would end up like this. Like, I wish I had known." And you can tell he regrets getting into that argument with Marissa because it led to her death. And then, you know, Drake kind of chastises him for not coming to the funeral. And Khalid said he wanted to come, but he's never seen a dead body. He got dressed. He was ready to get up and go, but he just could not do it. And he's like, "I should have been there though." And he starts to like weep. And I love this part where Dominique kind of like half-heartedly like comforts him. She's like, there, as he's crying on this couch. And he regains his composure. And it looks like he's about to lean in to kiss her, but he pulls back and he ends up offering her a cup of tea. And he's like, "Yeah, my mom makes it from scratch. It's really good." And he kind of gets up to make the tea. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, go make the tea." And he agreed. He basically tells her that, you know, he's drinking a lot of it lately because it helps with anxiety. And I knew something was up because his back was turned to her. And I'm like, this is not looking too good. And as he's talking and droning on about the fact that his mom just came back from Jamaica and apparently she thinks Frenchie's is better than jerk chicken. And Dre's like, and you see her look at like this glowing rock lamp thingy. Like, it was very heavy, a very heavy object. So as he's making this tea, she picks it up and she just runs up on him and hits him in the back of the head. And I was like, I saw it coming, but I just wasn't expecting it to happen so quickly. And so he's on the ground and he's like, "Dre, no." And I felt so bad for him. And she just goes, like over and over on top of his head until he's just lifeless and bloody. And she stops and there's blood all over her face and she's hyperventilating. Yes. And she's like, she just makes this like very like animal, like raw guttural noise as she's killing this poor man. I mean, he's a jerk, but he didn't deserve to die like that. And so her next choice is weird to me. Like, she decides like, "I need to eat something." So she's fishing through the fridge and she grabs a thing of sweet potato pie and she starts stuffing it into her mouth and her hands are covered in blood and she's just like soothing herself with eating this sweet potato pie. And the dog is barking at the door, and it's just, that's how the scene ends. It just cuts to black and we hear Chloe Bailey's song for the series "I'll Kill You" play as the credits roll. And I was like, oh, this is what the show is going to be about. Okay. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
I've never seen sweet potato pie the same.
Ever again.
Yeah. This is just a testament to Dominique Fishback's acting. At the beginning of that scene, when she says, "Can I come inside?" That was so scary. If you guys ever go back and decide to watch that scene and watch episode 1, just look at Dominique's facial expression and the way she turns her head to the side and says, "Can I come inside?" It's so frightening and bone chilling. This scene just played out perfectly. I did not see. I kind of knew something bad was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad to where she was going to bludgeon him to death. But the setup with Khalid and Dre gave me a lot of anxiety because I just knew as soon as she walked in that house, as soon as she asked him to come inside and they started talking, going back to when they had previous conversations, going back to when he said he was not, when he basically offended her about Nyjah, I was like, and then, him flirting with her, outright flirting with her and being in a relationship with Marissa, I just knew things weren't going to bode too well for Khalid. But yeah, the compulsive eating while she's got blood on her face after the aftermath of killing him. There's just something oddly poetic about that. And it was just interesting to see that moment. And yeah, it's something out of this world. I don't think I've quite seen this in like a horror thriller before, where a person bludgeons someone to death and you see blood all over their face, and then they just feel compelled to just eat all of the stuff. I mean, I've heard of emotional eating, but not to this extent. So it was very intriguing, and what a great way to end an episode. You know, obviously when you do the episodes as a writer, you want to end it on a nice climax, so that way so the viewer feels compelled to go to episode 2. So this was very well done with this ending. And yeah, I mean, Khalid was trash, but damn, he didn't need to go out like that.
And he was like, please no. And she still bang, bang, mink, minked all over his head. I felt so bad. But I'm sorry. Ryan, your thoughts on that great
Look, I'm just gonna hide like this. Your head's right here, so I'm just gonna hide because that's how I felt. I was just like, whoo, that was scary how that one that turned up. Listen, I'm not usually a fan of like a villain origin story, but you know, like we've been saying, the way Dominique Fishback is playing this role, I remember in Project Powers, where I remember her from, or I remember the character, and she had to play with darkness in that role. There's like, you know, there's holes in that project, we all know, in that movie. But the way that her character, specifically the way that she played with darkness and manipulated and to get to her end, she had a result she wanted to get to. And to see her do that now is just a testament to the force she is going to be as like this rising star that she's on. She is such a force, the way that she can manipulate that and make you feel bad for what has happened. It's like, girl, no, you didn't, but wait, let me think. You know, and it's interesting how she slowly pulled us into that. I did not expect that many hits. I didn't know, you know, Khalid was trash, but I didn't think he was gonna get hit that many times. But you know, she has a goal now. She has a mission, and she's focused. And the bees are swarming, and she's gonna do what she's got to do at this point. So you know, Marissa was her gate there between, you know, the crazy almost. So it's like the doors is open now. So and the way they ended this was perfect. It was like you're ready to go because you have to see, like, is this crazy keep going? You know, what do we got in the making here? So yeah, fantastic job how they played this episode.
Yeah. Samuel?
Yeah, it was two different thoughts that I had. I think the second time watching it, kind of to your point, is when I thought about Marissa, I was like, okay, Dre is kind of keeping her as an emotional support. I'm sorry, Marissa's keeping Dre as an emotional support. But what is Marissa for Dre? And it's like, okay, no, like my mental stability is going to go out the door. Because like you said, that scene when she showed up at the door, she kind of looked to the side. I was like, bro, don't let her in that house. I don't know, but I don't think it's good. And it's kind of like the other part about this is kind of like Khalid. To me, I still think it was an act. I'm not gonna lie. I think that yes, he may be a little bit emotionally vulnerable with some of it for her, but I feel like it was a goal. It was an end goal because he could have showed up to the funeral. And like, I mean, when he first shows up, like he just all of a sudden later starts to burst out into tears. I'm like, I think he's trying to get her sympathy so that he can be able to pull her back in. I was like, I don't buy anything that Dre is saying at all. And he may have been honest about his parents and in the tea, and they bring up Fritzies all over again, which is hilarious. That's Donald Glover writing all over again. But if you hone in on her, and the only question she really asked him, like, why didn't you show up to the funeral? Because I was trying to figure out, like, why did she kill him? He already apologized for talking about Naja. So why did she kill him? And the only thing I can think of is him not showing up to the funeral. Because, in all honesty, I don't see any other reason why did she kill. I mean, y'all tell me if y'all come up with something better, because I don't know why she killed him outside of a release for her. Like, she kind of felt it as a release. But I knew what his intent is. His intent was to try to pull her in to what he's always wanted to begin with, something to conquer. And as much as he did not deserve to die, he also still trash. I mean,
He's trash, but
he very much so is the embodiment of trash. But I mean, what she did is not justified at all. I don't know why she really killed him. The only thing I can think of is him not showing up to the funeral because she couldn't even be in the funeral. She couldn't even be there.
And also probably the fact that he cheated on her, and that probably also sent her over the edge. She might think that that's the reason why she killed herself.
That's true.
I think it's a combo of things. I think with Dre, there's really not one right answer. I think she doesn't like the fact that he don't like Nyjah. She saw through his apology. You don't really like Nyjah, right? You don't think she's special. She blames him for Marissa's death because he's partially responsible for why she spiraled. And then he didn't show up to her funeral. And on top of that, he tried to push up on her after Marissa died. So for all that, you about to die. So, I just, RIP, we lost Damson and Chloe in this first episode. They were both knocked out of the game. And I had said earlier that, and Ryan had also mentioned this, that the two most important people in Dre's life are Marissa and Nyjah. And Marissa was like her anchor, her reality. And once Marissa was taken off the board, now she's left with the fantasy of Nyjah. And she's already mentally unstable. She just lost her best friend in the world. She's down the rabbit hole now. There's no going back. Dre will never be the same. That is that first.
Thing I do want to add one thing about the pie part.
Yes.
I've seen a few horror films. I'm not like a horror enthusiast, but the fact that she was dealing with the rush of what she just did, and in her immediate thought is not to kind of wash her hands. Like she just went straight in, blood everywhere, blood in the pie while eating it, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, she is completely off. Like that shows volumes of what she's capable of, because that showed me that she really didn't care what she just did. It was more important for her to, pacify herself with, eating the pie. And yes, the dog is barking. Yes, there's a dead body on the floor. I don't really think she cared at that point. And so, because no sane person, after doing that, it maybe throw up or maybe like start to kind of like need to pace back and forth. She just eats the pie, and that's what calms her down. And so, that was the only thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that too, because Pamela in the comments said, what is her connection with convulsive eating? And it's basically anxiety medication for her. That's all it is. When she gets into a situation where she panics or deals with a lot of anxiety or dealing with a heavy amount of stress, she just goes through compulsive eating. And at this point, I mean, she's a psychopath. Anybody that's capable of murder is a psychopath. So she's outside of herself. So that's how, Samuel, she's able to just compulsively eat a sweet potato pie with the blood on it, because she's not herself. She has no feeling. She's not, she's completely outside of her body at this point. But as far as that answer with the compulsive eating, I think that's just her medication. She doesn't use any other drugs. She doesn't use any other mind-altering substances, which, some other people in this world might use to deal with anxiety, whether it's actual prescription medication or alcohol or weed or whatever. She eats.
Yep. It's a self-soothing mechanism. And I think she wasn't even tasting that pie. She just needed something in her mouth to ground her. She was just like, I just need something to cope.
She just had to cope. Yep.
So I mean, our next episode we'll address I think it's called Honey, and it gets progressively crazier and crazier. We're on a roller coaster that goes up and it goes down, and this is, like you said, it was an easy binge. I started at 10:30 at night, and then I had to go to sleep, and then I watched it the very next morning and finished. So it's a ride for sure.
Indeed. Are we doing Sunday? This Sunday or next Sunday?
We could do Honey this Sunday coming up.
Okay, cool. All right. So guys, obviously today's Wednesday, but all of these episodes, these recaps going forward will be on Sundays, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. But catch us Sunday, which is the 26th of March. Yes. And we'll do are we doing episodes 2 and 3, or are we just doing episode 2? We're actually figuring out the show while we're on.
I think the depth of this one episode and how far we went, I think we should do one per, just because there's just so much to cover.
Okay, cool.
So
honey, we'll do episode 2. Honey, join us this Sunday, same time. And yeah, we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us. This was a great lively discussion. Really appreciate it. Please, if you're on YouTube, helps us in the algorithm. It also helps people find us on YouTube that didn't get a chance to catch the live show, and they can watch these recaps. There's been a lot of people that's been tweeting me, asking me about recaps. So if you happen to miss it, catch it on the YouTube replay, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.